Chris Recommends. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 great games for kids 5 years old or under. So this is going to be great for those of you who are looking for games for your 2, 3, or 4-year-olds, even 5-year-olds. Those of you who really want to get your kids into games and are excited to introduce them to that world. And if you're like me, just want to have something to do at the table after dinner with your kids. This isn't an exhaustive list. This is just 5 games I've chosen, and I plan to do several more of these videos in the future. I wanted to start this list with games that are great for the youngest kids. 2 years old, that's when I generally start recommending people introduce games and rules to their kids, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's start. The first game I'm going to recommend today is something called First Orchard. This is part of HABA's My Very First Kids Game series, and this is a cooperative game where players are going to do very simple things. They're going to be rolling dice, and they're going to be taking fruit off of trees on the board or on the table. This is great for 2-year-olds. This is one of the first, I think it is the first game I actually bought my daughter, and it is excellent for teaching how to take turns, how to share, and how to be working together to accomplish a goal. It's cooperative. This is something that all kids can just get into and play. You roll a die and you take a fruit. I wanted to show you all this. So this is what comes in the box. You get a basket, a bunch of fruit, the die, some tiles representing trees, right? And then there's a wooden crow and a bunch of path tiles. And when you set this up, it's really simple. You put the 4 trees out and you put the corresponding fruit on them, and then you set up the path tiles in a row, and you put the crow on the very first path tile going into the garden or the orchard. And the goal of the game is to pick all the fruit before the crow comes and eats them all. And it's very silly. My daughter is now 4 years old. She's almost 5, and sometimes she still picks this up off of the shelf and says, "Daddy, let's play this game." So it has a lot of longevity. You'll get a lot of plays out of it. The next game I wanted to recommend is called Animal Upon Animal. This is another one of the HABA My Very First Games series. And this one is great for 2 years old as well and over. And this one might have a little bit more play on it from my family's perspective because it's a stacking game. It's Animal Upon Animal. You're stacking up animals, and they come in these big, chunky pieces. There's a pig, big, chunky cow. This game is really fun because stacking games are really easy for kids to understand. Now, this one is both a cooperative and competitive game, but it's not very competitive. Things fall over, and then you just sort of end the game. And there are many modules or types of games in the rule book. In the base module, you have a meadow. You have a meadow tile, and you'll be stacking your animals in the meadow, and you have these suns arranged. There's a sun arranged around the meadow, and they have animals on the other side. And so you're picking up tiles. You're picking up these sun tiles, and then putting that animal on the meadow. And the goal is obviously to make a high stack so that the animals don't fall over. And if the animal falls over, then your opponent wins, and so on. The reason this one's really easy for kids to manage and why I'd recommend it, even though it has some competitive aspects to it, is it's not very competitive at all. It's really easy for kids to stack on these giant chunky blocks. But there is actually a lot of fun to be had because some of the shapes of the animals, such as the sheep here, has these ridges at the top, make it for kind of an exciting experience for kids because they try to find new and inventive ways to stack animals together. And you can even try to make it harder for them if they get really good at it by stacking animals maybe sideways or upside down, or making some really clever, pig on a cow routine stuff. The chickens always are a little bit harder to stack on, so if you try to get the chicken upside down, you can try to make them work a little harder to stack animals. The next game I'm going to be recommending is Hoot Owl Hoot. And Hoot Owl Hoot is a game from Peaceable Kingdom that is great for 4+, but I think you could probably even play this with a 3-year-old. It's no big deal. This is a pretty easy, breezy game to play. This is a cooperative game, and as most of the Peaceable Kingdom games are. And in this one, you have a board. At the center of the board is the nest, and you have owls that are going to start over on the start spaces. And this plays a little bit like Candyland, if you've ever played Candyland, where you play a card for a color and then you move your piece along the track to the next available color. However, this one has a nice little twist to it that I really like, and that's you are all working together to get all the owls to the nest before the sun rises, but gets all the way over here on the sun track. And this is pretty easy to do in the easy mode, and you can add more owls to make it a little bit more challenging for you. The way it works is, obviously, if you are on a space, if your owl's on a space, and you wanted to move to a blue space, say you're on a blue space and you're on a blue space over here and you want to move that owl, you're going to fly over the occupied spaces to the next available space. So you get to like kind of move really far if you plan out ahead. And that's where the fun is for the kids, is like trying to figure out how best to move your owls really far. And it'll take them a couple tries to start figuring out that that's the strategy, but they will start doing it. And it's quite surprising and interesting to see this happen. But yeah, it's a game where you're just trying to get your owls to the center. Very fun, very breezy, easy recommend from me. The game also recommends that as your owls fly over other owls, you say hoot hoot. The fourth game I'm going to recommend is a game called Dragomino. And Dragomino is a junior version of another game, a best-selling game by Bruno Cathala called King Domino. If you have already played King Domino, some of this will be similar, but the scoring in this game is greatly simplified. That's the big difference in this game from King Domino, but it's also just a different game. In this one, you are going to be matching tiles. You'll have a starting tile, and they are really nice chunky pieces. They look like this, and they have different terrains on them. So this one, everyone starts with a desert and a snow space. And on your turn, there's going to be 4 tiles that will be revealed on the table, and they may look like this or something like that, like this. They'll be revealed, and you'll get to take one of those tiles if you're the first player, and it goes around the table. And then you're going to try to match them to your starting space, right? So say if I have this tile and I have this tile, I match it like this. Well, that means that I get to take a corresponding dragon egg of the color, the terrain color matching. So there are dragon eggs that match the corresponding terrain. On the backs of each of the eggs, there are 2 different things. There's either a dragon or an empty egg where the dragon escaped. And each colored set of eggs has a certain number of dragons that are there. They have a certain number of dragons, but some have more tiles than others. So for instance, the red dragons, the fire dragons, the lava dragons, there are 9 eggs, and 7 of those are dragons, and 2 of them are broken eggs. Some of them, however, like the desert dragons, there's more of those tiles, and so you have a smaller chance of drawing dragons out of that pile. So this game kind of teaches kids probability. That's one of the things it's really aiming for with a kind of tile matching aesthetic. At the end of the game, the person who has the most dragons and a point for also the mother dragon wins the game. And it's pretty quick. It goes by in about 6 or 7 minutes, which makes it highly replayable. It's easy to just shuffle up the tiles and do it again. What makes this game really interesting and fun for kids is that moment when they go and grab a tile, they flip it over and they say, oh, I got a dragon. That's really fun. And it is really exciting for kids. I also want to mention that there is a variation added in the rules called the Dragon's Thirst. And this one gives you more options. What it lets you do is when you match 2 tiles that have a watering hole, you get to look at 2 tiles, 2 of the selected, your dragon eggs, and choose which one you want to keep. So if you get 1 dud and 1 dragon, you can keep the dragon one. It makes it more of a game for older kids as well. And I think this game will scale very well, even past 4 to 5, and even up to 8 years old. Kids will probably really enjoy this one. The last game I'm going to recommend in this video is actually not recommended on the box for 5-year-olds. It's actually recommended for 6+. But I want to throw out a caveat here and say that this game plays excellent with a 4-year-old, and I highly recommend it for 4-year-olds. Not only is it a game that you'll have fun with as an adult, and that is one of the things that I want to mention here, is that a lot of these games, some of the earlier games, as an adult you kind of have to just go through them and work with your kid and have fun with them, but you yourself might not be having a whole lot of fun and being taxed very strategically. This one is actually going to work for you as an adult. It might not be the most exciting game, but it is also pretty fun. And that's Ticket to Ride First Journey. Now, the Ticket to Ride series is famous. It's one of the best-selling game franchises of all time. Ticket to Ride First Journeys takes what most kids are going to love of Ticket to Ride, that is the route building of laying trains down to create routes and completing tickets. And it gets rid of the point scoring from Big Ticket to Ride. And that is one of the things that kids are not going to be able to do in Big Ticket to Ride, is add up all of the points and figure out which they should be going for. That's definitely for older kids and adults. But Ticket to Ride First Journeys is excellent because it teaches kids icon recognition, route building, and probability of how much they can actually get out of their cards. They need to play a certain number of black cards to make black tracks. They have to play a certain amount of red tracks. You know, it's the same basic gameplay from Ticket to Ride, but it's just a little bit quicker. It is easy for kids to understand, and of course, the plastic trains are awesome. Now, this game board looks a little bit like Ticket to Ride, but just, you know, it's much larger. And this is whoa, it's upside down. This is the United States board. There's also an EU or European board. I played on both of them. They're both basically the same thing. So if you just choose your flavor of Ticket to Ride board for this one. The really great thing about this game is that kids will see on their cards, they will start to see the routes that they have to make, and they'll identify the icons. So if they need to get from Chicago, down to Miami, they'll see, oh, I need the alligator to the baseball, and they'll start doing that, and they'll plan their route accordingly. Now this one I'd say is definitely best for 5-year-olds and up, but I play this with my 4-year-old all the time, and she really likes it. It's one of her favorite games, primarily because she wins a lot, I think. She keeps kicking our butts. And the reason she keeps kicking our butts is this game has a tendency to snowball and end really quickly. Since everything's so close together, you're going to have these tickets, and once you complete them, you just put them face down. And all you need to do is get to 6 tickets, and when the first person to get to 6 tickets wins the game. And so on your turn, especially if you're, building up just track like a kid might want to do, just like make routes, whatever, they'll end up with a bunch of extra routes that correspond to new tickets that they'll draw off the top of the deck and immediately fulfill them. And you can go like ticket into ticket into ticket and win. And so the game is really fun for kids because they can end up just kind of winning and feeling good about that. And that's something that's interesting in games, and adults can have fun with that and enjoy the experience and play and have a good time and try to play well, but then they can still lose. You can do everything right and still lose, and that's okay. I also want to highly recommend, and this is something that kids have trouble with, is holding cards in their hand, especially younger kids. If you have a 4-year-old like me who doesn't like to fan out the cards in their hand, I highly recommend getting one of these original little hands card holders or something like this. There are many different things you could get that look like this, but essentially what they do is the cards just sit in the top like this, and then the kid doesn't have to hold the cards in their hand. They can just do this. This is really, really helpful, especially when they're trying to sort out what cards they want to play and how many. This is just excellent for kids to play games, and it helps foster play. So that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this was interesting. If you have any questions or comments, shoot them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any recommendations, send those to us as well. You can also email us at info@mathnificent.com, and we'll respond to you when we can. Thanks a lot. I will see you in the next video. Take care.